I've got a flow, or especially if I'm just trying to get into a flow and I'm doing a series of what amount to be exercises, and there's a surface or a brush or a foreign paint that, I just, come on,
It's what works on the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And or you can find and appropriate,
Yeah.
the experience.
So, you know what, you were talking about how this experience, Gregory, has altered, you've maintained your basic premise, especially around scar tissue, if you will.
Yes.
But, what thus far has the experience done as far as either altering or adding to or making you question what you're up to?
Well, as we all were discussing, Mark and we all, Masha, yourself, my experience has changed due to the fact that, I have come to Venice and I've spent so many years in the experience of America, that the, how can I say, the community element here, the openness, the palette, the pace, it's forcing me to look at, I can see the scar tissue more. So now I can actually see the narrative behind that, allowing it to be more open and universal for the audience and not so encapsulated in my experience in America. That's what I want to separate. It's not just about me in America. I'm kind of bored with that. I'm over it. I moved on.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And you find it also to be, I'd imagine in this context, it kind of challenges the concept. You find it to still be a valid point of departure for work or a source for your work.
Yeah, I mean, walking around Venice, everything's scarred or patinaed or has a history, but the beauty is talked about, not the story behind the broken brick or the ripped, advertisement or, the cracks in the streets, the detritus on the buildings and everything. Is more about the, how can I say, the environment, the feel, the vibe, the comfort that I think we all see and feel. That's where it is, the comfort of knowing that, I'm not the only one who's been
Very nice.
kind of through some stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of gets, I guess, reconfirmed or reified through the group context.
Yes.
John, we were beginning to talk a little bit about materials, be it paper, paint, whatever it is, intention even. And I don't know, maybe you could touch upon that. How has coming to Venice again? You were one of the folks involved in the beginning of what GAT was about as a guest artist, and you've seen, I think, the evolution both intimately and somewhat at a distance. I've said a couple of different things here, obviously, but good morning.
I just come and tune in, and I think it's an organic process, and it is as it is at this time. I understand it will move on, people will come and people will go, but the core thing is still present. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's the thing.
Right.
But I would know if that had changed as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still feel the core thing's still active.
What do you find attractive about, I guess, the GAP experience, or at least the concept?
What do I find
Attractive about it? Yeah.
The energy. And I think that's what it's all about for me anyway.
Why is that important?
Because I think that does start breaking down the boundaries within yourself and within your own art, if you want. Challenges as well, and then you have to look at yourself. It's an introspection as well that's going on, isn't it? It activates different parts of yourself, some that you're blind to, and if it brings those things out, might be a painful experience, but then it's coming out, and I think that will always happen anyway.
Right. So I'd say to summarize, at least at this point in time, at about what 8 in the morning on the terrace at Palazzo Cardinardi, that the individual comes to the group and returns to the individual, the self, and for me that's one of the great benefits.
I think it's this, the whole issue is the private and the public. Whether it's on Facebook or social media, and that's what I get very uncomfortable about. Because I think we are very private, and we, you know, and to public can imply exposure,
Yeah.
and exposure can be frightening. Certainly if you're a more introvert, because
Yeah.
I'm more introvert
Right.
in my nature.
Right.
So to come out, but I'm reasonably comfortable with all that now.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the process, because the public aspect of what we do and the vehicle we use, call it Facebook or social media, for connection, promotion, exhibiting the work that we do, and the process of the group dynamic is a challenge. It's sometimes frightening. I think certain assumptions or presumptions can be made by just simply, here's a picture of this group of people, or here's a collaborative piece that they did. Well, that's what they are all about, and that's not the case. The social media, or a promotional tool, is a means to an end to both bring people in, but at the same time, the direct experience of doing GAP, because it's large enough at this point that we have people involved remotely who we may never see face to face, but they're as integral to the process as we are, who have physically taken that next step, which I think may be the most important step. And forget what the philosophy is, forget what the hype is that, you know, we and /I present GAP to be about. The truth of it is that it's organic, it defines itself, it's different every single time, but it's absolutely necessary, I think, to have these kind of residencies to define, at least for the moment or for that particular project, just what GAP is, what it can be about. So
I think it helps also frame and give context to that conscious part of us all participating, arriving, being in the groove, and tapping into the energy. But as you pointed out, Carl, what's nice is that unconscious part, or unconscious parts that come in from the remote members. John, as you were bringing up, tapping into the energy could be fearful because the introspection, right, starts to rub with the extroverts, or the extroverted parts of ourselves, and that back and forth is what I find so interesting.
You know, I'm drawing from what you're saying too, and what occurred to me is that these kind of residencies, these kind of this aspect of one of the aspects of what we do, calls, perhaps one can call, a truce to ego. You know what I'm saying?
When we were talking about that, checking the ego, the context of the ego, because I like to embrace it. That's the beautiful part. You know, and John, you brought up energy. I'm so energized, and a lot of times, folks, I think, audience, other artists might perceive that as, oh, great. And no, like I said, I like to hide up in the energy, like that small little riff in the song that's always constant, but might come up or might pop down. And it's interesting.
Well, when I came first, I wasn't coming.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I was only coming for a holiday. I thought, well, you know, see what's going on. That, so I had no intent at all.
Which is pretty consistent with you, when you show,
So when I came, I just engaged. So it's all very fresh for me as well.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you, and again, good morning.
I love it.
That's the seminar over.
Yes, it is.
Yes, the seminar.
Well, what's funny, as soon as the camera starts, we kind of snap it. Well,
the
you
talk
know.
speak. Talk speak.
I think, you know, all that you can only interpret according to your own experience.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and and what the meaning is. The point is we're all different stages of life. There's different issues, different stages of life. So I think all that, there's so much that plays into it all.
Yeah.
You know.
Everything we bring to it is what's brought to it, and we bring everything to it, you know. And it's interesting to both engage and participate. It's also interesting to observe, because you know, basically we're all peers. It's got nothing to do with the level of where we are with you know, what we're doing with our art, or it's more about what we're doing with ourselves and what we're doing with ourselves together. You know what I mean? At this time.
And I think that's the beautiful part to take in, because you're abstracting your ego. Yeah. It allows you to abstract your ego, even though the ego is very real.
I think in the end, I think where you've come from is you made a leap.
Yeah.
Huge leap. It's not even like, oh, I'm skipping through the puddle, or I jumped in the puddle. Like, oh, I just dove over an ocean and landed into the lagoon, and now I'm just kind of like...
Well, it can throw people into quite a mix.
Yeah,
this.
absolutely so. Absolutely
Can't
so.
it?
Absolutely so.
But it's such
You
a
know, I mean,
beautiful
there's
thing.
people that have come sort of unprepared in themselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't like to be arrogant about that either. You
No.
know, it's just,
No, you're
you
being
know,
real.
yeah.
You're being real, and that's what I like. There's a real experience in allowing your vulnerabilities to come out
Well,
while you're still living in your ego.
But I think context is what you said.
Yeah.
It's a space.
Mm-hmm.
The context means the space for people to engage. But it is a protected space as well.
Yes. Yes, we're in these walls, we're in the piazza.
Yeah.
You know, this is home. I consider everyone family. There's a contribution, but as we all have family, you know, there's things that family do to us that shifts our movements at times.
The point is, it is, you know, a community. You know, a more truer community of people. You know, multicultural or whatever you want to
Absolutely,
say.
of course,
That is the community of people, and you know, it doesn't have the boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so if anything challenges your what is it, identity
Thank you.
in a culture, and it breaks through those identities to embrace other people, you find we're all the same.
Yeah.
And or we're all thriving for, as you brought up with your story about the soap operas or the shows back home for you. There's a lack of community, so folks engage in those programs, and we instead detach from the TV and come to a space like this and engage in the world this way. But as you said, we actually have the comfort, the diversity, the ability to move within different identities for whatever reason, and I find that the most beautiful thing, that I'm not just a young man who's black from America. I'm Gregory. I have friends who challenge me, who comfort my fears, cause a little more friction for me to take a risk. Those things are what
Well, it's a support element.
There you go. So, yeah, the support. Yes, the support.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels
Because
good
you're
to
not going to
support,
be
right?
judged.
Well, even
And that was your point about the pictures on the wall.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
So